If you're a mortgage broker, you already know the worst part of the job isn't the deal, it's everything around it that you have to do at the same time. Handling the bank statements, payslips, photos of ID with glare in the background that you can barely even read, all that coming in via a scattered format, file names, all that kind of stuff is all just an absolute mess. And once you get all the documents, someone from your team, or worse, your broker, has to sit there and manually download each and every file, renaming them all by hand, analyzing them all, and then pulling everything all together manually. That's about to change. I built a system that does all of that completely on its own. A borrower emails their documents overnight, and by the time you're in the office the next morning, they're sorted, renamed, filed, and analyzed. And you just get an email from our AI agent summarizing exactly what's been collected, what's still outstanding, and even a summary of charges and recurring deductions and everything from the borrower's account. I'll take you through it now and show you how it works. So here's exactly how it works. We've got this outline here basically where we've broken down each of the steps into different stages. And within each stage, there's basically an action that's taken either by our AI system or by some scripts that run in the background through automation. So this whole workflow starts with an email coming in from a borrower. As I said, you're probably going to be collecting documentation either through a platform like File Invite. It could be directly through a centralized inbox, email inbox. Basically, the idea here is that borrowers' documents will be all landing into the one unified inbox, but this can be changed to land into a platform if you prefer. From here, what we're doing is effectively we're using a script to pull the documents from the email attachments themselves into a dedicated Google Drive. This business that we built this for uses Google Drive. So there's a script that runs every 15 minutes, and that allows the script to then pull from the email into the Google Drive. These attachments then land into a Drive folder, and they're dropped into kind of like an inbox for the Google Drive. So we would create all of this as part of the process. And then from there, the business had 4 tasks that they wanted to achieve. So the first was relabel the documents. If I'm sending in my documents to a broker, chances are it's going to be labeled like screenshot 1, 2, 3, 4. So the idea behind this is that we establish a file naming structure that you and your business need, and we would have the agent relabel all of the documents. The next is bank statement analysis. So this is basically where we're going through the provided bank statements, whether it be credit cards, savings, or transaction accounts. And the agent is identifying and summarizing a list of charges and things that are coming in and out of the account to identify other credit that the borrower has, things like car loans, credit card repayments, and that kind of thing. There's also a block which I'll show you, which is a CRM copy paste. This is part of the phase 1 that we built for this business, but it's effectively a list of all of the fields, the summarized annual income and all those types of things that your admin team or your broker can simply copy and paste into your CRM. A phase 2 will be using an API to push all of that information from the AI agent directly into their CRM. And then we need to track what documents are outstanding. So the agent will create a checklist within the file every time. So if it's an existing file, it will create and maintain the checklist. And if it's a new file, it will also create the file within Google Drive and maintain a checklist to make sure that it knows what documents you're still waiting on. So this part here is basically the script. This is where the automation just happens and things take effect. Now, stage 2, which is where the agent will be taking effect. So what the agent actually does is it opens and reads every file, whether it's a PDF, a photo, it doesn't matter what the image is, it all works the same. It pulls names, dates, employers, income accounts, and an address directly out of all of those files. It can then group by borrower. So every 15 minutes, you might have 5 different borrowers that submit documents across 5 different loan applications. So the script will actually pull all of these into the inbox. And then once they're in the inbox, the agent can then determine and sort through all of the documents to see which documents belong where. One batch of this script can hold many people and it runs every 15 minutes. The documents are then grouped by the name read off the document. So if there's a bank statement or a payslip or a driver's license that contains John Smith, it will know to then associate that file with the John Smith file in the folder. It will then open each borrower's folder by either finding or creating their client folder and reading what's already in there and create a running ledger, which is like a checklist. It will then file and rename to the convention. So if you have a standardized naming structure like surname first, doc name, and period, the agent can follow that structure and rename those documents each and every time. It will then run a bank statement analysis. So it will do a read on all of their income, like I said earlier, any commitments, recurring payments, utilities, and it will flag that in the checklist email to the broker. It will then update the checklist ongoing, and I'll show you what that checklist looks like in just a second. It will compare everything that's already on file against the required documentation. It will then draft a summary email. So the summary email is sent to the broker or the admin team according to whoever's running the loan, just to let them know what documents have come in and what we're still waiting on. And then it will provide an output for the broker. So the named files will be stored in the right folder. It will have a checklist and a 10-second email where they can just skim it and understand exactly what you're still waiting on. And just to give you an idea exactly what this email looks like, you can see a sample email that was sent for Rachel Davis's file. You can see that this document is in progress. 1 of 5 documents have landed. They're still waiting on her Medicare, payslips, bank statements, and proof of address. So here's what's been collected so far. Here's what documents are still needed. And then earlier I mentioned that there were those fields ready to copy and paste into this CRM. We can structure this however you like, depending on which CRM you use, or we could incorporate a full CRM integration if your system allows it. But these fields are stored in the correct order so that if the admin team had the CRM open on another window, they could simply copy and paste straight over to the CRM. Obviously, the best and fastest way is to have it done by the agent, but in some cases, it's best to have the admin team just to manually copy and paste. And then we could integrate that once we know that it's fully up and running in your system and in your business. Here's a quick overview of the documents that I sent. These were just sent from me with some sample details. So there's some driver's licenses here. You can see the entire batch was sent. There's also some documents here from another borrower. So there's actually 3 borrowers in total who are within this email. So the agent's actually going to be able to sort these one by one. So what it starts with, if we go back to this demo folder here, and the inbox is where the documents will be sorted into. I've just created a clients folder here, which is sorted by output. But basically what would happen is the intake is where the documents land. The inbox is then where the pull happens from Gmail. So the script will take all of those attachments from the email that I showed earlier, pull these into the dedicated Google Drive inbox. And then when the agent is executed, and that can be done on a schedule or when your admin team would like it to be actioned, it will then move the documents into the clients folders. So here you can see 3 sample client folders here. I'll start by showing you the checklist. So this is the checklist for Jordan Mitchell. You can see this is just for the internal agent's use. So it knows what's being collected, proof of address, what's missing, what's partial, what's outstanding. And then once the bank statements have been provided, the agent will then be able to provide a better breakdown in terms of recurring charges and things that are coming out. But you can see here, it's already pulled out critical details, things like the employer name and the net amount of income per borrower. The one to pay attention to, and that we've heard all the time from brokers, is that their systems, if they do have any AI systems built, they're built based on a rigid structure. So they might be used to analyze New South Wales driver's licenses, but when you get a Western Australian license, it changes. The system I built is completely versatile. You could have a random overseas driver's license or passport format. The system will still read them the exact same way. And it was able to file those and move those correctly, as you can see here. So it collected her photo ID. It identified that it was valid and then said that we still have outstanding the Medicare card. And this is the borrower's details that you saw from the email earlier. We can do this for OneDrive, Dropbox, Google Drive. It doesn't really matter what systems you use. Chances are we'll be able to build you something like this with the ultimate goal of freeing up your team's time, reducing the workload of manual tasks. And for the business that we built this for, their intention is to use their admin team to go back and follow up with existing customers or loans that they serviced and won over successfully 2 or 3 years ago, and have the admin team calling into those customers to try and generate more business. So you can see not only are we saving productivity here, we're also actually improving the generation of new business. So if you run a broking team and you want this in your business, don't hesitate to get in touch with me. You can book a call or send me a DM or a message on this platform, and I'd be happy to help you out with getting it scoped for your business. Let's have a chat and see if we can help you out with a similar system.